Let's go. Hi, book babes.
Hi.
Welcome back. We are so excited that you're here with us. We are on Think Like a Monk, chapter 6, which is routine. Right under that, he says, location has energy, time has memory. And he quotes the Dalai Lama by saying, every day, think as you wake up. Today, I am fortunate to be alive. I have a precious human life. I am not going to waste it. Right there from the get-go. So I really love this chapter. Okay, let's be honest, not just this chapter. I love routine. I am that person. Like, I'm a planner. I'm very type A. Type A, is that what they call it? Like, very much I like having my stuff together. I like being in control. So a lot of this I really connected with, but at the same time, a lot of it I was like, oh, Jay, whew, you're really hitting me where it hurts and really teaching me the truth about routines. Because I don't know, we have these underlying lies of routine creates control. And while that is correct, you've got to have the emotion and the reasoning behind the routine, as I read through this book. Um, and so just I think like that was really impactful for me going into this book. And he speaks about like just staying at the ashram and the different routines that they have. They wait in line to brush their teeth. No one from the outside world witnesses what they're doing. They seem very just, going through their daily normal stuff. And he talks about like it's not easy that every morning as he wakes up super early, he's desperate to remain like just stay asleep. Like it's still the thing, like I just want to hit snooze, whether he's there or whether it's you in your bed, right? Like he still wants to hit snooze and he comes up with a million different excuses. And I highlighted, but I pushed myself to adopt this new routine because I was committed to the process. The fact that it was hard was important part of the journey. And I think that right there, that key, I highlighted it because I think that's the key in everything in life, right? Like as you grow and as you change, well, duh, it's going to be hard. You're going to want to give up. You're going to want to fall into those excuses because you don't know what you've never gone through. You don't know who you aren't, right? Like as you grow and as you change towards the person you want to be, you're going to be challenged. You have to create new routines. You have to create new habits so that you unbecome who you once were and learn to become who you want to be. And I just thought that was the hard, falling in love with the process, the hard part. That's the most important.
Definitely. I love his just concentration right away about like waking up earlier, because I think so many times that you hear, well, you should take at least an hour to yourself in the mornings if you want to be more productive. And so many times it's easy to dismiss that and think, oh my gosh, there is no way I'm waking up early. I don't like mornings. I'm not a morning person. And I think that that is almost a really limiting belief that we tell ourselves very often is, I am not a morning person. And I used to tell myself that all the time. And it wasn't until I found a morning routine, a morning practice, that I realized, there is a sense of tranquility that it gives you. And he talks about how he used to stay up later, and that is me. I feel like I needed to get the most out of my day. And he said, I had spent my entire life pushing the limits of each day, sacrificing tomorrow because I didn't want to miss out on today. And so many times I found myself like staying up late to do that one last thing, especially being a mom and having kids. How many times do we wait till the kids are in bed? And the moment that the kids are in bed, it's like we need to get that second wind because we need to run through and do dishes quick or pick up quick, or we just want to sit down and scroll social media for a minute without somebody right there. And all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And then of course, naturally, your body is not going to be very hyped if you're like, oh, I want to wake up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love that he talks about the point of waking up early wasn't to torture us. It was to start off the day with peace and tranquility. And I read that and I was like, when you first think about it, you're like, the heck if morning's gonna bring me anything like that? You know what I mean? So you're like, I want to stay in my cozy bed. That's what's gonna bring me peace and tranquility. But it's really because it sets the tone of the day. And he talks about how it's because you are putting your mind in the state. You can't just go to from sleeping and waking up and all of a sudden go, 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 and expect that your brain is going to follow suit. Your brain wants to have that time to be able to productively wake up and kind of go through like a checking process. How are you feeling? Are you connecting with yourself, or are you instantly flinging yourself into, say you wake up and the first thing you do is you grab your phone and you're scrolling social media, or you're checking into your work emails. You're instantly jarring your brain from going to this peaceful sleep to instantly slamming it into the world where you are bringing in the stress and anxieties already to start your day. If you take that moment to breathe and take that time for you, center yourself. Don't rush and do your day for other people, but really start your day for you. It's the note that you give through the rest of the day. You know what I mean? It's going to carry you through. And I love that he talks about it, because he says there are only 6 cars that can go from 0 to 60 miles an hour in under 2 seconds. Like most cars, humans are not built for that kind of sudden transition, mentally or physically. And I love that comparison, because that's so true. Our brains just need that extra time.
Oh, I love that. And I love the little part where he says, unfortunately, our productivity driven society encourages us to live like this. And I highlighted, we tend to wear our ability to get by on little sleep as some sort of badge of honor that validates our work ethic. But what it is a profound failure of self-respect and priorities. And that, when I read that, it punched me in the gut. I was like, okay, what it is a profound failure of self-respect and priorities. And I think I don't know what if there's anyone or anything necessarily to blame, but it's so true. Like, this society we are living in is so instantaneous. It's so right now. It's so busy, 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 be, do, that we've really kind of just thrown all caution to the wind of us as human beings, us as people. Like, we think that we should have to do it all. And that kind of validates our worth, when the truth of it is, like, our one and only job is to care for our human being as us. And we don't. And that's kind of sad if you think about it. Ugh. But he goes in to talk about early to rise and just, the recommendation of waking up an hour early. I'm trying to think. He starts you out small, though, because he has the try this, and he's like, an hour, that's a lot, right? Like, for anybody, that's an hour, waking up an hour early. So start with 5 minutes, start with 15 minutes, start with 20 minutes, whatever works. And you're going to have days where you snooze. You're going to have days where you don't do it successfully, but that's kind of why you practice it. Consistency really is key, because it's just like a muscle. You're training your body to do this. You're going through these motions, and essentially it's like you just kind of have to push through that, right? And however you want to spend it, he gives you permission to spend it doing whatever you want, whether that's taking a long shower, sipping your tea, going for a walk, meditating. There's no right way to spend your wake up hour. There's no right way to start your day. And I think like that right there is permission enough, because we can see so many people on social media, and especially like in the health and fitness industry where I work, and especially my focus, which is on self-care, morning routines, like that's my jam. And I see tons of women talk about it, but I also see tons of women try to adapt a routine that doesn't work for them. Right? Like, I work with clients every day, and they're like, I want this, but XYZ. And they talk about their struggles and they tell me about it. And I'm like, why are you trying to do that when that's not what fits your lifestyle, or that's not what fits who you are? And I think just the permission to find your own morning routine jam, that's really huge.
Definitely. And I love that he even touches, like, as life gets more complicated, if you have kids and a night job, these circumstances might make the idea of waking up an hour earlier unfathomable. But he says, notice that I'm not asking a specific time. I am just stating that the hour doesn't even have to be that early. The goal is to give you enough time to move with intention and do things completely. That spirit will carry your day. Create a time cushion at the beginning of the day, or you'll spend the rest of the day searching for it. I guarantee you'll never find extra time in the middle of the day. Steal it from your morning sleep and give it back to your sleep at night. See what changes. And then I love that because my schedule is all over the place. I work very different shifts and they range from being very early in the morning to very late at night. And I found that when I wanted to create a morning routine, I got very fixated on the time. And it was because I saw other successful people talk about, 5 a.m. hour or 4 a.m. as being, that you need to wake up super early and get X, Y, and Z, and that's how you're going to be more functional. But I realized that as I'm going to bed and not getting off work until 1 a.m. some days, it doesn't work. And I really had to let go of the time and realize it was the actions behind it. It was making sure that I was just going through with, like he says, intention and completing these things. So it doesn't always need to be 4 o'clock in the morning, but 1 hour earlier than maybe you need to. Maybe, you know that the kids need to be up for the bus at 7:45. So you start waking up, at 6:30 and just taking those little increments. And you touched on the try this activity. I love that he talks about 15 minutes every week. So you start just by 15 minutes and then the next week it's 30 minutes. And then you create that cushion of time in the morning because like he says, finding it in the middle of the day, especially as a mom, is not going to be guaranteed. And it's going to be almost creating you more stress to try to fit this in. And it's going to feel like another to-do list. And the point of this isn't to stress you out and make you think that you have one more thing you need to do. It's truly to give yourself that peace of mind. And in the next section, he says, found time. Once you create the space in the morning, it's yours alone, nobody else's. And then he touches about how many health experts are fond of recommending having a meditation or a gratitude practice because it just centers your brain. And then when you create this space, you realize it fills you with what you lack the most of all, time for yourself. And as a mom, especially, or just as a busy person, how many times are you actually taking for yourself? How many actions are you taking that are to fill your cup up first? And I know we speak a lot as parents because that's what we know, but it's so true, especially with waking up before your kids, because once your kids are up, let's be honest, it's for them and you're kind of on their schedule. And, it's really dependent on what time they need to go to school or what time they need to have lunch or nap time or those routines. And of course you can fit in things around that, but you're dictated by their schedule, where waking up that little bit, that's you controlling that hour and really being able to take it for you. And we always talk about filling your cup up first. Creating that morning routine is exactly how you do it. And I always talk about how I think why I love Think Like a Monk so much is because I feel like he talks about these things that you just hear about in podcasts or social media of these big themes of, oh, wake up earlier and you'll be happier, or have a gratitude practice and you'll be happier, and take time for yourself, fill up your cup first. And he takes it so much farther and tells you why you should, and then how to do it in such a tactical way that it's like, oh, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Especially the car analogy of, going from 0 to 60. It's those things where it makes it click in your brain of, oh, this isn't some voodoo magic. This makes sense on how the human brain operates.
I love it. And the next section is evening routine. And I will admit, I am not good at the evening. Like, I've got my morning routine on lock, but the evening, I'm still learning that. I've always craved an evening routine, but with the chaos of kids, it's like I hit a wall and I just am out cold and there's no thing. But going through this and reading it, he says the point of an evening routine is to remove the challenges from the morning. Insignificant as they may seem, if you're spending your morning deciding what to eat, what to wear, etc., then it complicates things. And he goes down and he says, the emotion you fall asleep with at night is most likely the emotion you'll wake up with in the morning. And I've started a new program recently where the focus really is just recentering yourself at the end of the day. So do a 10-minute yoga. And I've also added meditation with that and an evening prayer. And so just like I can tell a difference in how I wake up the next morning when I don't do that. Like on the nights that I do just like fall asleep hardcore, I'll wake up the next morning still being exhausted, still being tired, still being drowsy. Whereas on the days that I make that time to do my evening routine and do my stretching and meditating, and I go into sleep at a place of centered peace, I wake up with more energy. I wake up feeling different. And I mean, obviously there's some truth to that, because he talks about the evening routine, but my goal is to continue growing in that. So I really just love this little section where he dives on that.
Especially the last part that he puts in bold is that the emotion you fall asleep with at night is likely the emotion that you'll wake up with in the morning. And I feel like so many times I will go to lay down and suddenly that's when my brain releases all the to-do lists and all the ambitions. And my brain is like, hey, we want to do this, this, and this would be a great idea. And this would be a wonderful time to do this. And it just compiles it right when I'm trying to sleep. And when you overwhelm yourself thinking about, oh, I need to do this, this, and this when you go to sleep, well, that's the note that you're ending up on. Your body, when you wake up, is likely going to be in that exact same state. So I have heard this idea of leaving it on your table, like leaving on the nightstand, which is the idea that before you even get in bed, you think of all the things that went wrong in the day, or the things that you're stressed out about tomorrow, and you just think about them before you even get into bed. And you literally touch your nightstand table and you say, I'm leaving this here. We'll pick this back up tomorrow. And you let it go. And then you go to sleep and you truly try to just turn off any of that. And you leave it, like I said, on the nightstand table to be able to pick up in the morning. And it's to be able to just calm your brain down. And I love that you touched on that program, because they do have the stretches. And I feel like so many times we're still like going through social media and it's so easy to be like scrolling, and all of a sudden it's well past bedtime. And with that nighttime focus, it's really putting away electronics and letting your brain actually turn off. And there's still a lot of new science coming out about blue lights and about how that disturbs the brain, especially at night, and how they're learning that the effects of having a TV on at night and the disturbance in your sleep. And I think so many times, we want to attribute, oh, I'm so tired because I'm not getting enough sleep. I don't think we think enough about the quality sleep that we're getting. Are we setting ourselves up to get that quality sleep that our body needs?
Absolutely. So in here, he just talks about how routines root us. And I think like that's just kind of the key. No matter what your routine looks like, the idea is that it gives you that foundation and the root to grow off of and to really fuel you, to take care of you, to grow you. And I think that's the most important thing. And he talks about really in here, truly noticing what's around us keeps our brains from shifting to autopilot. So just being very attentive to what's going on. Because he talks about the story where they have to walk the same path every single day, but they have to notice something different. And it's like, because he talks about monks understand that routines free your mind, but the biggest threat to that freedom is monotony. So although routines are amazing and they're great and they root you, if you just kind of go through checking the boxes and just going through the routine without thought and just doing, then that monotony, you feel trapped, right? Like it feels like Groundhog's Day. And so their challenge going through this path was noticing something new in the same routine that they were doing, noticing something new every single day. And I think that that's really powerful, because it's easy to check the boxes. It's easy to just get by, but are you actually living it, or are you just walking through it?
Definitely. And I love at the end of that section, he talks about when you have this approach to find like delight in the smaller things. And he says, we tend to anticipate the big events of life, like holidays, promotions, birthday parties. We put pressure on these events to live up to our expectations. But if we look for small joys, we don't have to wait for them to come up on the calendar. Instead, they await us every day if we take the time to look at them. And I have this highlighted because my granny, who was just my entire rock growing up, had a saying that was, take time to smell the roses. And then her second with that was, don't sweat the small stuff. And both of those things are so relevant, because it's really taking that time to slow down and enjoy those little moments, and like I said, smell the roses and enjoy those little things that are there, because especially I find myself after Christmas, I have this huge, like, all the anxieties and the joys and the huge moments of like the holidays, all of a sudden after Christmas, it just kind of crashes. And it's kind of hard to keep that balance. But I know that if I would find a better, like, everyday joy, then it wouldn't bring up those high highs during the holidays and let them drop down on normal days. And so in real time, that's definitely something that I'm like, oh, I felt that part.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And then he says to walk down the same old path and find a new stone is to open your mind. And I really like that's kind of the goal, is just opening your mind to new, to opportunity. The next little section is chew your drinks and drink your food. Sounds weird, right? And this actually was an idea that was introduced to me this past summer. I did a 21-day cleanse where it was like, you eat super freaking healthy and you follow it as is. And one of the things in it was that you were to chew your food until it becomes liquid, because we are trained or conditioned to rush through eating, right? Like even at school, my kids get like 10, maybe 20 minutes total lunchtime. Like that's it, to eat their entire lunch. And so even from a young age, from kindergarten, we are taught you eat fast or you don't eat at all, right? Like those are your options. And one, it harms our body, but two, like we're just back to the busy, busy, busy. So monk training wasn't just about spotting the new, it was about doing familiar things with awareness. Really remember to chew your drinks and drink your food. When you drink your food, grind the solids into liquid. When you chew your drink, instead of gulping it down, take each sip as if it's a morsel to be savored. Again, fall in love with that process, right? Like stop making everything be so rushed and slow down for the now.
Definitely. And I love at the next section is in every moment of the day. And he talks about how we all may agree that living in the present makes sense. But truth is, we're only willing to have selective presence. Oof, I felt that so much, because we hear like living intentionally or being present where your feet are. And he says we're willing to be present at certain times, like during our favorite show or a yoga class, or even a task that we've chosen to elevate. But we still want to get distracted when we choose to be distracted. We spend time at work daydreaming about going on beach vacations, but then on the beach, long awaited drink in hand, we're annoyed to find that we can't stop thinking about work. And I feel that so much, because it's so easy, especially even not as, maybe the work doesn't relate, but as a mom, how many times do we think, oh my gosh, I need a break from my kids. Oh my gosh, I need a break from my kids. And you're just overwhelmed and stressed with them day to day. And then all of a sudden, some savior comes in, a friend, grandma, grandpa, and they take the kids for the night, and you spend all night just thinking, oh, I miss my kids. Oh, I wish that I would spend more time with my kids. And you kind of make yourself miserable, or like the martyr, because you're like, oh, I have mom guilt, I shouldn't have left and stuff like that. And so you're not even enjoying the time that you got. And it's that selective presence. It's really about taking that time every moment of the day and being there. When you wake up, being present with yourself. When your kids wake up, being present with them. And when you do get that time, being present where your feet are. If you're on vacation, thinking about the drink in your hand or enjoying time with whoever else is there. And if you're at work, being focused at work, as much as that might be hard and you want to like think of other things or try to pass the time, how much better of an employee you're going to be if you're just truly there and focused. And I love that he talks about that in being present is the only way to live a truly rich and fulfilled life.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, love, love, love that, because it's easy. Like we pride ourselves in, oh, I'm such a good multitasker. No, actually, no, that's not true. What you're doing is you're rushing your life away. And it's like, when you say it those different ways, it's like, okay. So the next little section, he talks about location has energy. And I thought this was super, super interesting because he just talks about, like, New York City feels different than LA, and just like the difference in that. But outside of that, what about in your home? The bathroom feels different than your kitchen, then feels different than your bedroom, then feels different than your living room. And they're all meant to have their own little space and energy. And if we, for example, if we put a TV in our bedroom and we're watching Netflix in our bedroom, we're confusing the energy of that space. And it's really important to kind of have those boundaries so that when you go to your bed, like, that's when you go to sleep. And he goes on to say the point is to be aware about where you thrive, where you're at your best, and to figure out how to spend the most time in that place. And as someone who works from home, that's definitely a struggle of mine, right? Like, the convenience is I can take my work all through my house. But at the same time, if I have my work in my kitchen where I can see my dirty dishes and my mound of laundry, I'm not actually working better because I'm distracted by the dishes and the laundry and the children who are screaming. But if I can separate myself to my office, then I know my office is where I do my work, and I sit down and I can get it done, and I don't have to worry about those other distractions. And it's really just being aware of your own environment and knowing, again, where you thrive best and how you can set boundaries for each space. He talks about designing, like, sound design your life. Your location and your senses speak to each other. This is most obvious when we think about the sounds that we encounter each day. In monk life, the sounds we hear relate directly to what we're doing. We wake up to birds and winds. We hear chanting as we walk into a meditation. There's no painful noise. And it's kind of like doing that in your own day, in your own life. And I think that's huge, huge, huge.
I love that. And that's a big part that I had highlighted is the sound designing your life, because he talks about how there's so much sound that even we might not even be aware of that we're hearing, like, maybe neighbors, dogs barking, or planes overhead, and just how there's always sound and how we're just so quick to want to, like, get rid of it in sound. And he talks about, instead of tuning out the noise, begin sound designing it. Pick out like amazing alarm tones to wake up to, and on your way to work, listen to an favorite audio or podcast or like a really great playlist, and just choose sounds that make you feel happier, then to better replicate the highly curated life that you want. And I love that, because I think so many times you're just like, I just want it to be quiet. And it's not a matter of the silence, it's a matter of just picking the sounds that you are hearing. And then in the next, he talks more about how time has memory. And I love what he has bolded at the bottom, because he says, location has energy, time has memory. If you do something at the same time every day, it becomes easier and natural. If you do something in the same space every day, it becomes easier and natural. And it kind of ties back in to what we were talking about with location has energy. And it's really where you need to be productive. And he talks kind of back where if you are feeling more like enlightened and you're just very energetic in a nightclub, but your work is a quiet office, you're probably not going to feel like your best self in that quiet office. So how can you incorporate that higher energy into your work? And if you, like I said, if you're going and putting your Netflix in your bedroom every night, then you're probably not telling your body that location is to sleep. And I love that he talks about in single tasking, about how only 2% of us can multitask effectively. Only 2%. And I think every single mom almost wants to immediately argue about how the heck I cannot multitask. I'm a mom. You know how many things I have to do at once as a mom? But the point is not that how many things you can do at once. How many things can you actually effectively do at once? And he talks about how to make single tasking easier, him and his wife have no tech zones. So that means they don't have their techs in the bedroom or at the dining table, and try not to be on between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. Or 8 p.m. and 9 a.m. And I loved that, because how many times do you have your phone in hand and you're spending time with your kids, Or how many times are you at the dinner table and you're sitting there scrolling social media? And it kind of goes back to that being present where your feet are. And so many times I think it's easy to have technology and think that you're being present, but you're not, because you're being present to your technology. I loved that little tidbit in there.
Absolutely. And he talks about this fragmented attention actually erodes our ability to focus. So it's not only just, harming our day-to-day productivity, but it's actually harming our brain because we're not able to focus on what we need to. And then he says, I try to practice single tasking with mundane tasks in order to strengthen the habit. He used to brush his teeth without thought. They were white enough, they looked great. But then the dentist told me that I had damaged my gums. Now I spend 4 seconds on each tooth. Could you imagine spending 4 seconds on every single tooth that you brush to make sure you're getting every crook and cranny and crevice, and you're being so intentional with brushing your teeth? But that's just what he does, right? Finding the joy in that little mundane everyday task to notice the stone on the path, right? Like essentially. And he finds it more effective and more energizing. He says, if I think about business when I'm brushing my teeth or I'm in the shower, it doesn't feel nourishing and energizing, and I don't take care of my gums. And it's really something as simple as that, right? Like just taking the time to do that simple mundane thing. It could be dishes, it could be laundry, it could be brushing your hair, it could be taking a shower. As a mom, I pray and I want for the days of a hot, uninterrupted shower, right? But if you're in the shower and instead of like rushing around thinking of, oh, I have to do this and I have to do that and I have to do this and I have to do that, you're not giving yourself that attention. Whereas if you could like zone in on washing your hair and scrubbing your body, it's going to feel 100 times better. And it's not going to get, have the same feeling of, I need that hot interrupted shower, because you're actually bathing and taking care of yourself versus just rushing through it and, going on to the next thing, which I know is much easier said than done, but it's the truth of the matter, right? Like just taking that time despite the chaos. And then the next little section is going all the way. And he says, give yourself a little time. If you try to change everything at the same time, they will all become small, equal priorities. Change happens with small steps and big priorities. So he really gives you permission. He says, pick one thing to change, make it your number one priority, and see it through before you move on to the next. So you don't have to change all the things tomorrow. What's the one thing you want to focus on, right? Like maybe your one focus is getting up the 15 minutes early for the next week. Do it. Yes. Focus on that one thing. Then maybe once you have that created into a habit, then focus on doing one single task where you're very intentional, right? I think like that permission is super, I don't know, it feels good.
Love it. And I love that he even says, like, throughout this book, I suggest many changes that you can make in your life. But if you try to change everything at the same time, they will all become small, equal priorities. And so many times I think that we get what you could like a motivation bug, where it's like you just want to do all the things. And I think especially in the health and fitness industry, it's like, especially come, January 1st or the first of the month, or come, bathing suit season, so called, you hear like, oh, I'm going to do all the things. On Monday, I'm going to stop drinking soda and I'm going to start eating all the salads and I'm going to start working out. And while those are all great things and all things that you should do, if you've never got off the couch and you have been eating potato chips for the last, 2 years of your life at least, that Monday is going to be a cold shock to your system and it's not going to feel good. And that's not the purpose of doing it. The purpose of adding these routines is because they add value to your life and they're going to improve it. But if you're not going to at least set yourself up to be able to sustainably do them, it's not going to benefit anybody. So it's really taking the time to make those small little incremental changes and I think he breaks it down really well, like take a week and add this one change. And then I think there's also like such a powerful habit in habit stacking, where if you already are doing something like, let's say you brush your teeth, adding another habit right there to create those routines, because time has memory. If you do the same thing every single time, your body is going to get in the habit and you're going to have that routine that's going to benefit you. So I love going all the way.
Absolutely. And then the only other thing I have highlighted from this section is where he talks about this last little section. He talks about, you could spend, I'll just read it. Imagine you were told you could spend 5 minutes a day for a whole month with someone you were attracted to. At the end of the month, you'd still barely know them. You definitely wouldn't be in love. There's a reason we want to talk to someone all night when we're falling in love. Maybe sometimes it's the other way around. We fall in love because we talk to someone all night. And this is the part that I have highlighted. The ocean is full of treasures, but if you swim on the surface, you won't see them all. And he says, if you start a meditation practice with the idea that you can instantly clear your mind, you'll soon learn that immersion takes time and practice. So it's kind of wraps this all up in like a big little present, right? Like it's a perfect little bow. All of this is great, and all of this is necessary, and all of this is going to help you feel better. But if you're only swimming at the surface of any of these things, you're not truly going to be able to feel those, right? Like if you're just barely doing a morning routine and barely doing an evening routine and barely single tasking, it's going to feel like, oh, this is no different than what I'm already doing. But if you can start your morning routine and understand it and get to the bottom of it and really see all the treasures instead of just swimming at the surface, how much better is that going to feel? You're going to understand it. You're going to know it. And understand that it takes time. You're not going to swim to the bottom of the ocean like that. Like, it takes time to get your way down there. And that permission, again, just him giving me that permission to take my time, to do what I need, to listen to what I'm feeling, to just be. That's huge for me.
I love that. And I love the ocean analogy, because how true is that, especially with the treasures at the bottom, and how we just kind of want to stay at surface level, and because it's scary to sometimes like go deeper, but
it's hard to breathe.
That's where the treasure is. And I have the last part of routines here is highlighted for me, and it says routines are counterintuitive. Instead of being boring and repetitive, doing the same tasks at the same time in the same place makes room for creativity. The consistent energy of location and memory of time help us be present in the moment, engaging deeply in tasks instead of getting distracted or frustrated. Build routines and train yourself as monks do to find focus and achieve deep immersion. Once we quell our external distractions, we can address the most subtle and powerful distractions of all, the voices inside our heads.
Oof. Love it.
And I love that, because I think it segments into chapter 7, which is titled The Mind, so well. And it just really kind of concretes why you want a routine, and that it isn't going to be like boring or, to create mundane into your life. It is really to kind of break way for those other ways of creativity, because your mind knows its structure. And I just found so much tactical stuff in this chapter for sure.
Absolutely. So good.
So good.
All right. That is what we have for this chapter. We are so glad that you are here with us, just learning and growing beside us. We appreciate you incredibly, incredibly much. If you have any comments, takeaways, please share them with us. Tag us in your social media. Share, because we love seeing your takeaways too.
Definitely. And we will catch you guys for chapter 7 next time.